Hi, I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about the matter of adulting and what that means in your life. It may mean doing your own taxes, or maybe buying your first car, or having somebody at work that's under your direct supervision where now you're the boss. And that feels pretty good because now you realize I'm in an adult situation. Basically, when we use the phrase adulting, what we mean is coming to grips with the transition from being a carefree teenager who really has no worries, no bills, to now you are assuming adult responsibilities and you're doing them in a good way. I remember the first time this concept kind of hit me was when I was speaking to one of my sons, and I opened my mouth to say something to my son, but it really wasn't my words that were coming out. It sounded like my dad was talking, and I thought, oh man, I'm an adult. My dad was speaking. Well, with the matter of adulting, there are some positives with it. There's this feeling of accomplishment, like, yeah, I can do this. And sometimes there's the feeling that I'm successfully doing what it takes to be grown up and be on my own. But then sometimes there's a negative aspect to this matter of adulting. There can be anger when you realize that it's not easy and that life is hard. Or sometimes there can be anger when you realize that you came into adulthood very naive. You had kind of a pie in the sky idea about things, and then as reality sinks in, you can get upset at life. Sometimes folks get mad because they realize that they're not well prepared for being an adult. I remember hearing a man say once, he said, "Thanks, Dad, for teaching me absolutely nothing." And I think he was teasing a little bit, but I think he was pretty serious at the same time. But I want you to understand that Proverbs 24 says, "Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field, and afterwards build thine house." So he's talking about in the area of adulting, that if you can do a little bit of preparation on your part and gather some information that can be helpful, that you can be prepared to meet some of the life-size challenges that adulting is going to bring into your life. And just because you had parents or other people in your life that were adults before you, it doesn't mean necessarily that they did a great job at it. And I think all of us have seen folks come into adulthood and struggle and fail a little bit. And the goal is for us that we can move past that and get to a point where we're adulting successfully. And let me say this for you. If you're struggling a little bit with this matter of being an adult, take a deep breath, because there's hope and there's help. And you're going to make it through this, and you're going to come out just fine. There's several topics that I notice come up time and time again when we're talking about adulting, and maybe some of the challenges or things that you're not prepared for. And one of the topics that comes up quite a bit is the matter of loss, or losing a loved one. And it can be something that catches you totally off guard. I remember as a child, my parents went to funerals all the time. They kind of explained to me that they were going to a funeral, but oftentimes they didn't take me. And so there's an experience there that they were experiencing, but they weren't passing that on to me. And then I remember before my 30th birthday, one of my friends that I grew up with, his name was Reuben, he died in his sleep of a heart attack. And then another young lady that was in our youth group, she just had a lot of difficulties at home, and she took her own life. And I remember when I heard this, it scared me. And I was shocked. And it made me feel pretty vulnerable, thinking, wow, if that could happen to them, that could happen to me. Well, can I let you in on a secret? Unless you're a calloused, uncaring person, losing somebody that you know never gets easier, no matter how old you are. There's always going to be that sting that comes with losing a loved one. Ecclesiastes 9:11 says this. It says, "Time and chance happeneth to them all." So, number one, given enough time, folks get older, they become feeble, they get frail, and they pass away. My dad had been in the hospital for some time. He had had heart surgery, And I'd always viewed my dad as being very strong, almost like Superman, you know, bigger than life. And when my dad walked out of the hospital, he had lost a bunch of weight. His face normally was very full and it was thinned down, and he had skin hanging down here. And his hands used to be so strong, they were white and wrinkly. And I thought to myself, my dad's an old man. I just never viewed my dad in that lens before. But given enough time, folks get older, they become more feeble and frail, and eventually folks pass away. That is the natural order of life. Also, it's important to remember that there's more to life than death. Jesus said, I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. The Lord wants you to live out your existence, not always being consumed with this thought about death. I know it's easy if you have a loss or maybe several losses in a row. You walk into a room and you look around and you think, okay, who's next? And that fear settles in, and you're checking up on your loved ones, or you have some ailment. You run to the doctor thinking that this is it. And God doesn't want you to live in that kind of a fear. In fact, He said God had not given us the spirit of fear. So there's more to life than death. Another thought is, when you know Jesus Christ is your Savior, you're never alone. When you lose a loved one, it leaves you feeling like you're a small ship on a wide ocean. But Jesus said, I will never leave thee. And those are important words that Jesus left as He was ascending into heaven and left His disciples here without Him. So that's another thought that we need to dwell on. And then the last one is this, that time does heal. Right now, that pain that you have from losing someone is so intense, and it's real. But the way God designed our bodies, our emotions, even our spirits, is that given enough time, we are allowed to heal. That is, if we don't pick at the scabs all the time. But God does design us in such a way that He wants to heal us. As you're adulting and you have to deal with loss, I hope you don't get into a point where you just feel completely discouraged, or maybe even to the point where you get despondent about it. I hope you think about these thoughts that we've talked about so that you can adult successfully.